Time magazine called him the unsung hero behind the internet. CNN called him a father of the internet. President Bill Clinton called him one of the great minds of the information age. He has been voted history's greatest scientist of African descent. He is Philip Emeagwali. He's coming to Trinidad and Tobago to launch the 2008 Kwame Ture lecture series on Sunday, June 8th at the JFK Auditorium, UWI St. Augustine, 5 p.m. The Emancipation Support Committee invites you to come and hear this inspirational mind adjust the theme, crossing new frontiers to conquer today's challenges. This lecture is one you cannot afford to miss. Admission is free, so be there on Sunday, June 8th, 5 p.m. at the JFK Auditorium, UWI St. Augustine.
I define the supercomputer as any computer that is listed within the top 1,000 fastest computers in the world. By my definition, the few computers of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s were supercomputers. And the computers that I programmed in the 1970s and 80s were supercomputers. Retrospectively, and as a sub-Saharan African-born scientist in the United States who came of age in the 1970s and 80s, my scientific career took a path that some thought it should not have taken. Back in 1989, many people struggled to understand why a black man was the sole full-time programmer of the most massively parallel supercomputer ever built. The answer, in part, is that I started programming the CDC 3300, one of the world's fastest supercomputers, back on June 20, 1974, at 1800 Southwest Campus Way, Corvallis, Oregon, United States. I remember that date as 18 days before President Richard Nixon was forced out of the White House. The maximum of 80 computer programmers at a time, and from the entire state of Oregon, indicated that there were only a few hundred computer programmers in Oregon in 1974. Back in the 1980s, and within the nuclear research laboratories in the United States, where active supercomputing research is conducted, I was treated like a security threat. I was de facto an illegal alien who sought refuge at the frontier of supercomputing knowledge. For the record, my earliest supercomputer accounts were revoked whenever it was discovered that I was black and sub-Saharan African. Because my supercomputer accounts were revoked, my survival strategy was to stay low-key and do so during my first 16 years as a supercomputer scientist. As a black and African research supercomputer scientist in Corvallis, Oregon, my quintessential question was this: what did my isolating identity do to me as a research scientist? In Corvallis, Oregon, I lived a very isolating identity, and I grappled with existential issues. After 16 years of unrecognized supercomputer research, I began to wonder if one day my contributions will be forgotten. Being the first person to be referred to as a supercomputer scientist confused a lot of people, and did so in part because I was black and African. As a black parallel supercomputer scientist, I was mocked and made fun of because I worked alone and tried to turn this science fiction of parallel processing into the non-fiction that is today's supercomputer. Back in 1974, Kidder Hall, the symbol of mathematics in Corvallis, Oregon, United States, was a seemingly majestic structure. So were the physics and the engineering buildings. Back in 1974, in Corvallis, Oregon, the computer science department was hinged in a hastily put together trailer. In 1974, I didn't see a future in the field of computer science because it lacked the respectability to be housed in a multi-story concrete building. In May and June 1974, I lived at 15 Edgewood Way, Corvallis, Oregon, United States. That was the residence of Ted and Connie Folk. Ted was a chemical engineer that retrained as a physician, and Connie was a high school teacher. From March 1975 through June 1977, I parked my red two-speed bicycle at the back of Kidder Hall at 2000 Southwest Campus Way, Corvallis, Oregon. That was 190 feet from the supercomputer that I was programming. That was the world's fastest computer when it was manufactured back in December 1965. From October 1975 through January 1976, I lived at 2540 Southwest Whiteside Drive, Corvallis, Oregon, United States. That was the residence of Fred and Ann Merrifield. Fred was a noted civil engineer who co-founded a global engineering company called CH2M. I rode my red two-speed bicycle that I bought for $10 to 2000 Southwest Campus Way, Corvallis, Oregon, a distance of 2.6 miles, where I used the teletype to access and program the first supercomputer to be rated at 1 million instructions per second, and that was 190 feet away and across the street.
Insightful and brilliant lecture.